My name's Linda Higgs. I'm one of the volunteers here. I'm a friend of Cannon Hall, and this is the glorious walled garden dating back to 1760 that we have here, right in the middle of the countryside near Barnsley. We have a list dated 1761, and on that list there were only 5 pears, which is for the walled garden. Now those pears were cooking pears, which were the original old pears. They were designed for cooking. You didn't eat them. You couldn't eat them raw. So I'm intent on getting some of those back if I can. But since then, and particularly in the 19th century, somebody started collecting different varieties, different cultivars of pears. And we now have 38 different cultivars of pears, which is quite unique, I think, certainly for the north, because pears don't grow very well up here. And we have about 60 trees, 60 pear trees. We also have heritage apples.
I am Richard Emerson. I'm the chair of the Friends of Cannon Hall Museum Park and Gardens. Pears were kind of a luxury item, along with pineapples that were grown here and grapes and all sorts of exotic fruits. And the walled garden, in effect, had to provide all the fresh fruit and flowers and everything for the house throughout the year. It's a one-upmanship kind of thing in the local area. You have a nice big house. There's a display house just to the side of us, which is built specifically to show off the produce, particularly pineapples, which were grown here in quantity, and we even have a pinery, which again was there to ripen them and to display them. We've also got John Spencer, who developed the site and the park and extended the hall in the early and mid 1700s. Went on his European tour and brought some grape seeds back from Greece. Gave them to the gardeners and said, grow these for me. There is a 200-year-old grapevine growing in one of our greenhouses, and there were many more in the past, which is now a recognised variety, the Cannon Hall Muscat grape.
My name is Phil Rainford. I'm retired, but I've had a lifelong interest in old fruit varieties, and I'm a member of 2 or 3 different orchard groups, and we're trying to rescue old varieties of apples and pears in the main. Pears were much more popular in walled gardens in the past than they are today. If you go back to the 1600s and 1700s, you find that they predominate over apples.
But this was the pride and joy of the, in 1760, John Spencer owned the place, and he spent about 2 million improving the landscape, building the walls, building this walled garden, and building a pinery for his pineapples, which was the height of fashion then. And he proudly says in his diary, which you can still read in Barnsley Archives, cut my first pineapple out of the hothouse in 1760, October the 23rd. If you look in the supermarkets, you'll possibly see perhaps 3 pears, 3 different varieties of pears. Now here we have about 38. There might be more because we have 1 or 2 pear trees that are not yet identified. They're notoriously difficult to identify.
I'm Martin, I'm one of the gardeners here. I've been here about 18 years now. Rare varieties of pears. There's pears here you're not seeing shops at all. There's some rare varieties, and the States one of the best collections of pears in England, especially Northern England.
I do know that 1 or 2 may not have been positively identified as yet, so we may well have amongst this collection 1 or 2 missing varieties. So that's of great interest. What we're doing is, if we can't readily identify a pear variety, we're now sending leaves off for DNA testing. And more often than not, we're finding that the pears that we're sending down aren't in the collection. They're unique, in other words.
You know, if people come in, they've never seen these types of pears, and because then when we have Pear Day, we have this pear tasting table, and people can't believe how different the taste at pears you buy in shops. Because it's all organic, we don't use no chemicals. There's one called Pitmaster and Duchess, that's very nice juicy pear, and there's one called Triumph de Vienne, that is really nice, and we just got one of those. And I've never seen those in shops. And
Hiya, I'm Dan. I'm one of the gardeners here at Cannon Hall Museum, Park and Gardens. My job entails really looking after and maintaining all the grounds here at Cannon Hall Museum, including the walled garden. It's to be maintained to a high standard for its historical value, because some of them they date back to 300 years old. Most interesting thing about working here for me is looking after the volunteers and looking after the historical fruit collection.
My name's Kath Kelly. I took voluntary early redundancy from a job that I did in IT for schools about 3 years ago, and then 9 months ago I saw an advert for volunteers for here, and it was a park I'd always enjoyed as a child and with my own child and as a grown-up and things, so I thought I'd try and give a bit back, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, I think the pear trees, as I've discovered, is what it's sort of renowned for in a way, but then apparently they've had the rhododendrons as well. There's some quite really old ones of those, and then I think they had a tree survey done, and they found a really old magnolia here that they think might be the oldest in the country, apparently.
And it's absolutely unique to have that many, particularly this far north. And we're doing our best to hold on to them or replace them if need be.
But we keep trying to keep and restore this pear collection. It is important. As I say, it's one of the most northerly sites for an old pear collection.
Well, it's a sense of history, really. We are actually tasting for the first time, you know, some of these lost varieties, and there's some wonderful flavours.